I'm basically saying that my hormones are out of whack.
Mm.
So if I'm a little bit of a loose cannon, if I say some unsavory things, if I post some unmentionable posts, it's not my fault.
Mm,
I mean, it
I
goes along with
hear
the
that.
episode, I think, for the movie.
Oh, are you calling me a woman, a hysterical woman?
I did not.
Mm.
I mean, I don't have what's the Latin root word for womb or what do you guys carry your babies in again?
A vessel?
Your
No.
uterus?
There you go. That's where the
Oh.
word
Utero.
hysterical comes from, is the Latin word for uterus, because only women get hysterical.
Oh.
It's not me saying it,
Mm.
ladies and gentlemen, it's science. And also, this movie could have been appropriate for last month's theme, also.
Oh, obsession.
Yeah.
That's true. It could have been. You're
Yes.
right. You're right. But I thought that it would be appropriate, to have it during Women's Month because I feel like many a woman goes through this. So I guess, are we ready, ladies?
Tale as old as time, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you fall for what is it? The man that keeps you under
The gaslighter,
Mm.
the
the lance.
gaslighter.
Oops.
I mean,
Oh.
hey,
Mm,
this movie is very gaslighting. I'm not gonna lie, for sure. I was like,
mm.
"Ooh, Jesus!"
And it was made before the term even. I don't even know if it was a term back then or if we just didn't know it. But
It
No,
wasn't a term back then.
yeah,
This is
no,
a
not at
yeah,
modern
all.
term.
only time I ever heard of gaslighter is when I lived in San Diego and there was the Gaslight District. So I'm pretty sure that has a whole new meaning now.
Oh, I used to live near
Oh.
there.
Yeah, I did too, Lance. We've had this discussion before. We both lived in San Diego, but at different times at different years. So sorry we
This is
couldn't be
yes.
friends back then.
Oh,
I know.
Hmm.
And just so you know, there's three root terms for hysteria. Hyster, meter, and uter refer to the uterus. The end.
Well,
You know, I
this
like
is
to educate
perfect.
people. Yeah.
I know.
We'll just call it the March of Hysteria.
Actually, that's not a bad title. This is Slashers, your new favorite podcast about your new and old favorite horror media. My name is Aid, and with me, as always, are my esteemed colleagues, co-hosts, and cohorts, my boo-boo Mikey
Hello.
and Lance.
Hello.
Ladies, say hello to the mutant goons from beyond.
Hello, MGBs. Hey, you know me.
Hmm,
Hello, kids.
Ooh.
okay. Well, you all guessed it, since our topic of conversation was clearly woman-centered, that we are now in our Women of Horror Month, March. And I guess March hysteria is a pretty good term. Are we being satirical? Are we being ironic? Or are we being
I mean,
misogynist?
all
You
of
can
the
tell me.
above.
The straight male in this situation, I'm gonna keep quiet.
Hmm.
Well,
Interesting.
as the other straight male in this situation, I'm just going to say this. The term hysteria is like the term wife beater. I'm like, why do we still use it?
Mm.
Because
It's a tank top.
it's a tank top, it's a shirt. You know, hysteria is a word invented by men that literally was like a superstitious thing that the moon interacted with your uterus, which is why you were inconsolable and whatever. So it's
Mm.
all of it. It's satire, it's misogyny, but at the end of the day, it's just real fun and sexy.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, it's true. I mean, because there are certain times of the month but every woman is for the most part, different, has, their cycle.
Yeah.
And so I can see where men would imagine something, but I'm sure that they all did something to provoke it. So
I
with
mean,
that,
it's not like men are so even keeled.
no, my God, they're hot-headed every second, every moment, every hour of the day. We know this.
Just like I like them.
I
I
know.
mean, have you ever seen a male sick? I mean, let's be honest. Anytime a guy
Mm,
gets sick, it's pretty much baby time.
Well, first of all, they don't admit it, and they say things like, I never get sick. Sound familiar? But
mm.
I can't say nothing on that one.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, go on.
So with that, I just want to talk about Women's Month really quick. So we decided here on Slashers Podcast, because it is Women in Horror Month, and we've done this for the past couple of years. I think we missed one March, and then we ended up doing it in April. Because I am the only woman on the podcast, save for Yahira, who pops in every now and again, and I guess Mikey. But Mikey doesn't count. He doesn't have a vagina.
I do. It just fell out. It fell out quite a bit, if you know what I mean.
XXY, folks. XXY.
That's right.
Anyway,
For science.
so we decided, okay, to spice it up, or spice this month up a little bit, and instead of doing the same, okay, we're going to pick a woman-centered horror film, because let's be honest, most horror films do have a final girl centered around a woman. So it's very easy, I guess, to choose a horror film and find the feminine qualities of it. Oh, excuse me, feminist qualities of it. I mean, even down to what most people would say would be very misogynist, but is actually very feminist in its roots, is Slumber Party Massacre. So, and I think we did that one in the remake last year.
We did both of them.
Was it? Okay, we did. So, it's really easy to sort of get into that with women, but I think that one of my favorite parts about horror is that there are a lot of films that showcase the quote hysteria that women are subjected to on a daily basis, and they use that as a metaphor within the film. And we see that in films like Rosemary's Baby, for example, or when women are being gaslit. And this is usually a common trope in horror films. Watcher, for example. I think it's really easy to kind of pinpoint, the easy films, but when you're really looking for an underlying film that kind of goes with the atrocities that women face all of the time, something like Watcher would be great. And this is why I chose today's film. And I wanted to showcase an actress for each week. So today we are going through What Lies Beneath. And the actress that I wanted to showcase would be Michelle Pfeiffer, because I don't think that she gets a lot of love within the horror community. However, she is in a lot of horror, thriller, drama films that can sort of fall under the guise of horror at times. And she always plays very interesting roles.
Yeah.
And while she and Jason, this one's for you, because you think I hate small blonde women. That's not true, because I adore Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, and me.
There.
And I was actually thinking about Michelle Pfeiffer in horror, and I was like, what has she done? And I was like, oh yeah, she's in a recent horror film that I actually will not see because of the content, and that's Mother. And I also want to thank her for the COVID vaccine.
Wait, what did she do? How did that happen?
It's a joke. Pfizer.
Oh my God.
Michelle
Oh
Pfizer.
yeah. Michelle Pfeiffer.
It was funny, but Lance thinks it's
did I ruin it? Is that the
well, to be fair, I'm sure
to be fair, Lance's team Fovid, so
oh man.
Just kidding. He is not. My efforts to cancel Lance are not in effect at the moment. It's just a joke.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's like this going, check.
I know, it's like they have a checklist for Lance: misogynistic, homophobic, white,
like
COVID.
They're gonna run into me. They're gonna like, you're not anything like Mikey makes you sound. I'm like, I know.
You're worse.
Shh.
I know. And here we are in Women's Month talking about a straight passing white male. Yay.
Know.
Wow.
Taking over the show yet again. Look, his hat is his motive for this month.
I know, it's a fitting theme. So I mean, but I also want to point out that Michelle Pfeiffer is not the only woman in this film, but it also showcases Wendy Crewson and Amber Valletta. And so those are pretty prolific female, actresses, especially with Wendy Crewson. I love her to death. And she's actually in Air Force One with Harrison Ford, who's also in this film. So I thought that was fun.
Also, I want to add to there Miranda Otto, who plays Mary Fior. First of all, I love the name. Second of all, she is one of the aunts from Netflix Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. God, don't listen. I love that show. You can start listening again, God. But also she was in Talk to Me, and I feel like she was in something else. But she's an Australian actress, and I almost didn't recognize her. I was just looking up the IMDb stuff, and I saw her name, and I was like, "Who is she?" And then I saw her, and I was like, "Oh shit, that is her."
Oh, she's in the Lord of the Rings as well. I knew that's where I recognized her from. She's in like,
It's
some
over
of these
2 hours. I
epic
haven't seen it.
films.
I barely finished this
Yeah.
one.
Okay. So before we get into it, I just want to talk a little bit about Michelle Pfeiffer. So
You're
the reason
pronouncing
I
your last name wrong. I'm not gonna
what?
do it. Nothing. Never mind.
We didn't get into the whole film yet. I have a lot to
No,
say.
I know.
This is almost a 2.5 hour movie, you son of a bitch.
I
So
know. I was gonna say. I'm not gonna... Go ahead.
I'm muting you and Lance. It's over. It's gonna be the age show.
Sorry. I told you my hormones are out of whack. As a woman, you should
Your hormones
sympathize.
are out of
So
whack.
you can't even talk. Go ahead.
Michelle Pfeiffer as that's a Golden Girls.
I'm so stupid. Go ahead.
I didn't say it.
She was obviously thinking it there.
I know.
Woman on
So
woman hate crime going on, folks.
I
Documented.
know.
Episode
I know.
601 of Slashers Podcast or whatever number.
And I'm supposed to be the horrible one on this fucking show.
This is why I sent a meme today of Trixie Mattel sitting in a stool, and beside her was murder, cannibalism, beheading, whatever, like all of these horrible things. And I go,
Topics discussed.
yeah, this is Mikey on Patreon. Looking fabulous while you do. So, yay.
Speaking of Patreon, you'll hear a lot more of us on there.
Yes.
So Michelle Pfeiffer, really quick, I just want to go over a quick bio for her because I want to celebrate her today. Yes, she was in Mother. And Mother is, if none of you have seen it, I almost wanted to do that for this month, but then I was like, well, I have to watch that movie again, and I don't think I could sit through it again. It was very intense. Jennifer Lawrence is in it. If you've never seen it, Javier Bardem is in it as well. If you've never seen Mother, I highly recommend that for if you want something extreme, because honestly, I feel like Mother was more extreme than Necromantic, in my opinion. But that's because one, I'm a woman, and two, I can't even tell you what they do because I don't want to ruin it. But
Yeah.
it's a whole metaphor of how we treat the earth, and Mother is Mother Nature. So it basically Michelle Pfeiffer and her husband are Adam and Eve in the film. So Mikey, this is a religious movie.
Oh,
You may
perfect.
want to
I'll
watch.
stick with my corpse fucking. Thank you. Y'all can have Mother.
That's where you go with Mikey. Is like, it's religious. Go on.
Yeah.
But we are not talking about Mother. But not only was she in Mother, one of her first films, her first two films were Grease 2, which who
Oh
doesn't love that
yeah.
movie?
I'm a
It's so
cool
good.
rider.
I know somebody
Grease
give me that
2.
jacket, and then I know Lance remembers. And then we have,
Yeah.
It's
and of
great,
course,
Lance.
Is it? Is it?
and of course, we also have, which came out in 82, and then in 83, we have Scarface, which is
Oh yeah.
is Scarface Brian De Palma? I think it is.
No, it's a mafia movie.
Who?
Nothing. I don't know what I'm on today. I just mute
Such
me.
a hoe,
No, it's a
Oh
mafia.
my God. Yes, it's a Brian De Palma film, you ass. Okay.
De Palma. De Palma.
Brian De Palma, who also did Carrie and Sisters, for all of you bitches listening.
I love your Jersey accent kicking in today, by the way.
It's New
Brian De
York. She's
Palma?
not from Jersey.
I know. This is like, she automatically she's like, it's Brian De Palma.
Brian De Palma.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That's his name.
Yeah,
It
no,
is.
you're right.
Yes.
Oh, and then Wolf.
Oh.
Yeah, she was in Wolf.
Have y'all seen that?
Michelle
haven't seen
Pfeiffer. Yes, which I almost
The Jack Nicholson?
actually did. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And James Spader is also in that one. So Wolf
James
is a
Spader's
great
awesome.
one. Actually, if we ever want to do Wolf on the show, I'd love to do
That
it.
Joe
Because
Dirt.
it's a great movie. I actually
Joe Dirt.
James Spader's in everything, but I always love him from Pretty in Pink because he's the douchebag that I probably would have dated. So there's that. And he was so handsome back in the 80s. Oh, what What is Cutie Pie? He was really cute up until recently. I don't know. What is that show he does now? Where he's
The Blacklist, I think,
yeah, The
or
Blacklist.
is that right?
That's what he does now. Thank you.
Well, he's
Now I
also
should
for
know.
nerdy people that out there. He also played in the Avengers movie as the main villain.
Which Avengers
James
movie? There's
Spader?
like 8 of them.
Ultron. He played Ultron, the voice of Ultron.
I've only seen the first one, so I don't know why I asked.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, he's the voice
Anyways,
of Ultron.
so speaking of Marvel, so Michelle Pfeiffer is actually in the Ant-Man movies. I guess she plays some
Seriously, speaking
character.
of Marvel, she's in Batman. And
Uh, okay, no, we're not there yet. So stop
oh,
derailing me.
sorry.
Because I could give a fuck about Marvel these days, but she's in it.
Oh,
And actually, the writer of the screenplay and the story of this film is Clark Gregg. And I don't know if you know who he is. I know him as Jennifer Grey's ex-husband, but he's also in a bunch of the Marvel movies, and I think he dies in one of them. So Clark Gregg, look him up. If you see him, you know who he is. He's a little nerdy guy, married to Jennifer Grey. They just
he's
got
Aiden
divorced like 2 years
Coulson.
ago.
Everybody that's out there.
He died, didn't he die? He died. Like, he was like the locker guy or some kind of.
Technically he died, then he ended up in the TV series for Agents of Shield.
Of course.
Whereas he's still alive, but then technically you don't know if he was reanimated or anything like that. For
Mm.
all the nerdy people out there,
Spoiler
that is that
alert.
part of that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyways, don't care. But so he actually wrote the movie,
Mm.
co-wrote it, and he did the story or whatever. And then, so she was also in Witches of Eastwick, which is another great one. And actually, we should have done that one, which also stars Jack Nicholson, Cher, and Susan Sarandon.
That
Very
is a good movie.
powerful woman's story there. And also the crazy chick from Alien. I forget her name, but she's great. So, anyways, a lot of like
I love how you use the
great.
word crazy.
Well, she is a little crazy. Remember her in the church, and she was spitting up all the cherry seeds, and she was vomiting all over the floor. And then her husband killed her because he just couldn't take it anymore.
What
We
movie
should have
is
done
this?
Witches of Eastwick.
Is it
Oh.
Anyways,
Witches of Eastwick? Oh,
yes, that's the Witches of Eastwick. So she's in a lot, but she's also in a lot of rom-coms. One of my favorites being Frankie and Johnny, One Fine Day. But my favorite role of her, and we all know this, will always be
Deep
Catwoman.
End of the
She
Ocean. Oh.
The Deep End of the Ocean. Great movie, but no, Catwoman. She is the best Catwoman. She is like literally, quite literally, I think the only woman who can pull Catwoman off the way that she does, because
ooh.
not only is she insanely beautiful, but she's so sexy, and just her outfit with the stitches and the Tim
You don't
Burton
think Zoe
thing
did a good
going on,
job in
and
the
just
last
like
one?
the fact that
Who?
she's just completely
Zoe?
unhinged at the end of the day. Like, Bruce, I would love to live
Absolutely
with you
not.
in your castle. And then she smacks him with her nails, and she's like, but I just can't live with myself. Girl, get it. She
Yeah.
plays such a great like dichotomy of characters. So thank you, Michelle, for all that you've done for us. And Henry Rose, her fragrance collection is amazing, by the way. I love it. I have a whole box of them and I wear them all the time. Moving on along. Michelle Pfeiffer, born April 29th, 1958, she's 65. She was born in Santa Ana, California. And for 65, she looks amazing. So you go, girl. And her net worth is $250 million. She was
Woo-woo.
married to Peter Horton for like 7 years in the 80s. And we all know Peter Horton from Mikey's favorite series, Children of the Corn.
Who we might
An
be visiting
actor.
or not visiting during Spooky Empire.
Yeah.
I know. So we have that. So another tie to horror, but she is currently married to David E. Kelly, who we know, writer producer of famous shows such as what my favorite, Ally McBeal, Boston Legal, Big Little Lies, etc., etc. By the way, he's very sexy, and our debut film today that we're speaking of, which came out July of 2000, What Lies Beneath. So
Mm.
this movie is about what, 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Who saw it in the movie theater?
Me, not by choice.
Wait
My
for
mom
the
made me
old man
go.
joke and go.
No,
Lance, I
I
No?
would
didn't think you'd
never.
be interested in this, Lance. It's about a woman.
What? I also
Lance,
I
I'm
did
not the
see it
one
in
who
the
makes fun
theater.
of your
So
age.
she always makes fun of my age.
No, me, not her.
Oh, well, both of you do, but not the point.
How dare you? I
Well,
saw it in the
to
movie
be
theater.
okay, so did I. I saw
Thank
it at the
you.
Universal Cineplex with the whole family. Everybody wanted to go because I was like, oh my God, it's a horror movie. Michelle Pfeiffer, let's go.
Well,
I
I
picked
didn't
it
know it was
out.
a horror movie when I went. My mom just made me go with her, and I was like, ugh. I was like, I don't know how old was I, like 13. I'm like,
Same.
ugh.
It
And
was
Yeah.
I
like,
was like, ah.
Yeah, I was in middle school at the time too, and I remember that the movie theater was so fucking cold, and I was freezing the whole time, so I could barely enjoy the movie. And it sort of made me feel like how she felt because I'm like, she's running around wet this whole movie in Vermont. She's got to be freezing.
Me too.
that was your thought
I
process.
remember people screaming in the theater.
It was scary. And the theater was packed. There were people sitting next to me, and we went with my aunt, uncle, my mom and dad, my brother. Like everybody went,
Yeah,
because
well, I think they don't really do this anymore, but this movie was targeted to everyone.
hmm
Whereas, most of the times these days a horror movie is targeted to horror audiences. This is like
There's
it's
there's a lot of
legit.
cliche though, don't you
Well,
think
okay,
though?
so also I had this conversation with my friend today because he found out what we were watching and he was talking to me about how he really enjoyed the movie. And I was watching it yesterday. I was like, is it the twist at the end? I remember being really taken off track or off guard whenever it happened. And I was like, was that one of the first times it happened? And it's just happened so many times since then. A rewatch is like, that's cliche. Or was it cliche back then? I was just too young to know.
I think for that, I just want to address that. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, this isn't horror. I disagree because there's a lot of horrific things that happen to her throughout the film that may not necessarily be what we think is typical horror, but it's horror in the vein that if you are a person going through what she's going through, and I feel like I identify more with this movie the older that I get, that I find it horrific. But there was a part in the movie, and I don't remember what, that I realized, oh my God, like that was the twist. Like I had already
Mhm.
figured it out beforehand because I think what we're all led to believe is that we're figuring this out with Michelle Pfeiffer. Her name is Claire in the movie. We're figuring it out with her. And I think everyone, including her and the character in the movie, like we all get it at the exact same time. And we're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Because and then when you rewatch it, you can kind of pick up on pieces. And I think that's so beautiful about this film. There's a lot of nuances about it if you're not looking for them. But then when you know what happens at the end and you go back and you rewatch it, you're like, oh shit. I don't know.
I kind of
Anyways,
like it
well,
because it has a very witchcrafty kind of vibe to it that gets kind of subtly dripped in there. Because I mean, her friend gives her like the Book of Dead almost, you know what I mean? It's like, and then there's possession. So there's like, I mean, like you said, there's a little bit of like a lot of things in here. So for you to assume that it's not a horror, because like it's been a second since I've seen it, obviously, and then like I was watching it today, and I was like literally going, oh man, there's a lot of these like I guess right now it seems cheesy little, like, okay, yeah, I get it. You're doing this, you're doing that. But at the time frame, I mean, in 2000, you're thinking, oh, wow, you guys try to put everything in this thing. It's like the friend giving in the book, them literally doing a seance with, the classic Ouija board, type scenario. They're in the bathroom grabbing a piece of her locket. You know what I mean? It's like all these things, it's like,
Yeah.
it seemed more witchcrafty to me at some points, but then later on, you're talking about there's still a ghost, there's possession, so it's pretty cool if you really like break it down, like you're saying.
Yeah. And I think it's very similar in its horror gauge, almost like Crimson Peak is horror. Um, but one of the things that I forget, which we're probably gonna get into spoilers, people, if you haven't seen it yet, it's available on Paramount Plus.
yes.
Paramount
I
Plus.
had to stream it for tomorrow, so I don't have that.
Or
But
you
yes,
can rent it and Prime, obviously. I
Yeah.
honestly I would rent it if you don't want to get Paramount Plus. Just pay the couple dollars to see it because honestly, it,
Yeah.
it pops up on Netflix a lot and HBO Max every now and again too. So
It's a good movie and it shows what happens when you kind of give a horror movie a bigger budget. And I kind
mm,
of think of this as what if Nora Roberts made a horror movie? Because it's a ghost story. And
yeah.
for maybe about half the movie, you think that the ghost is targeting her because she's an ex-lover of the husband. It's a big scandal because he was the professor, she was a student, and if I remember correctly, she said that she was going to tell or she was going to do something if she couldn't be with him. I don't remember. But basically, they set it up to be like, oh, the ghost is after you because she's in love with your husband.
Like a vindictive ex.
Yeah, typical men blaming it on the other woman. And so I think that's what kind of made it a little scary, because to me, like, Crimson Peak is the reason why the whole ghost aspect wasn't really that scary to me, is because we knew the ghosts were like helpful, trying to warn them. But in this one, it kind of leads you down the path of this ghost is actually trying to get her, until we figure out that, oh, actually the ghost is trying to help her and tell her what her husband did. And so I like the whole switcheroo.
And
Yeah.
I don't even think necessarily, especially because I watch this movie every time I can stream it. If it pops up on HBO or Netflix, and it will every now and again, people, so if you want to wait around for it, you can. But it goes off just as quickly. So I'm not really sure what I guess because of Paramount Plus now. But um, I don't necessarily think that the ghost is really helping her. I think that the ghost is doing everything it can to get to Norman. And not necessarily by killing his wife. That wouldn't get to Norman, because we know this because of the ending. Like, Norman could give a fuck. Like, he loves her,
Yeah,
but he is willing to get rid of her, right? Just like he got rid of
same.
his mistress. And so I know, just like everyone with me, right?
Hmm.
So what I'm saying is that she knew she had to get Norman where it hurt the most. Where can we make him suffer the most? And that's by literally, and that's what she does throughout the movie. By getting to Claire, the ghost is slowly dragging Norman down. Not only is it ruining Norman's research and the paper that he's been working so hard on, and then the banquet that they have, like quite literally everything Claire's going through, it disrupts everything in Norman's life. And Norman, throughout the entire film, thinks it's because Claire is trying to sabotage him because he's not at home much anymore. And there's so many little subtle nuances throughout the film. So if you haven't watched this one yet, please watch it first and then listen to the episode, because these are all spoilers. But like, we know that something is wrong at the beginning, especially when Michelle Pfeiffer, when Claire is in the garage and she's looking at old pictures, and we see that there was a car accident. So there's something quite not right with this character, but we don't know what it is. And as an audience, you still don't understand, is this a ghost or is she really going crazy? And so we're sort of like in the same vein as The Watcher or Crimson Peak. And I feel like with women and female characters, it's so easy for like writers and directors to sort of, this is what this is, because no one ever fucking believes this anyways, right? So are you crazy or is it a ghost? If we were in real life, most people would just say you were crazy, because really, who?
It's the easier
Do you think
explanation.
do you think they brushed over the idea though? I mean, if you think about it, because like obviously you kind of get the hint that she had an accident and that was
Yeah.
what she was kind of reliving, but they don't really talk about the fact that maybe she had memory loss and that's why she doesn't remember what happened. Because remember later on she recalls that she did catch him with this girl, and you only find that out later on, but they don't really kind of
Because
lead into
she
that, you know.
she repressed it.
We're
She
right. No, I
re-
get that, but they don't really talk about the accident. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like that's a, because that would be a very big point to say, hey, she's being crazy. She doesn't remember anything. She's still dealing with memory loss. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, the accident as a way. Well, no,
yeah,
but Norman doesn't want to bring it up because he knows that she's actually repressing a lot of.
right. But I understand that. But I mean, but they don't do that in the movie though.
No, yeah, and her best friend doesn't bring it up. Remember, because
And she
remember
hides
when
shit
she
from her
talks to
too.
her, because
Yeah, like,
everyone's afraid to bring it up because they don't want her to relive that again. So it's almost like, okay, are you protecting her out of necessity? Or are you protecting her because you don't want her to know that you know, kind of
well,
thing?
Norman is definitely
Well,
the friend,
Norman, of
maybe not
course,
so much.
obviously, her friend really, and the thing is like, even I believe Norman. Like,
Yeah.
even I still watch this movie and I still want to believe him. Like at the end when he's saying the story, and I was like, well, he's Harrison Ford. He's got a great career. Look at their
Also, let's talk
house. They
about
got a boat.
the men you supposedly want to be into.
Yeah,
Like,
usually I'm with you on that toxic cruise ship,
yeah, I was
but
gonna say, like, of course you're falling for that one. You're like, you're literally always saying oh yeah, I love this guy, even that he's abusive.
13-year-old me was like, oh, okay, yeah, he looks smart. 30-something-year-old me is like, are
What
you
the
up for a
fuck?
Razzie Award, my dude? Because I'm not believing anything that you're saying. You're getting way too heated in a short of amount of time. You're hiding something, bitch.
No. And the thing is like he's gaslighting her. And the thing that struck me, and I was watching it because I rewatched it again yesterday, when he said to her that, I wanted to be with you, and I wanted to be with you forever, but like dot dot dot. And I'm
Oops.
just like, he's still
Dick
blaming
slipped.
her for his actions. Typical male. I think the most horrific part, and that most people don't touch on this. So the whole part of the whole, let's really quickly, everyone, the recapitation of the film is
Capitation.
recapitation,
The
sir.
summary, Lance.
I say
I
this
know.
every episode,
I just
and
thought it was funny
yet,
because it sounds like he got his head cut off.
Why are you acting brand new, Lance?
oh my God. Okay, so the wife of a university research scientist believes that her Lakeside, Vermont home is haunted by a ghost or that she is losing her mind. So, and a lot of the time, there are so many times where her sanity is shown to us as the audience, like when she's accusing the neighbors. The whole thing with the neighbor is a total red herring, right? Like we
Yeah.
think everything's going on. Like she gets the Ouija board, but she's got the bloody quote, the bloody shoe of
A little drop on the
of
one shoe.
Miranda Otto, yeah, which
Why
we
did they
see.
leave that out so long, by the way? It was just sitting on top of the you ever notice that? I was like, noticing it this time. I'm like, wow, she just put it on their porch on their thing.
He probably just left it up there.
Yeah,
And you find out later that it's paint because remember when she's snooping, Michelle Pfeiffer's on the porch and she's looking in
Yeah.
the window. There's like canvases on the floor. There's paint, so there's clearly paint on the fucking sandal. So it's not even. But my best part because it's James Remar when they're at the party after she accuses him of killing his wife, and the wife is like, "Oh, here I am," and he like puts his hand around the wife's neck, like, "I'm gonna kill her." Like, what a fucking asshole.
I mean, in
you're
his defense,
drinking.
I would probably be that dick and do the same thing.
Yeah, they were drinking. And I was like, oh my God, poor Michelle Pfeiffer. What a man. Anyway, yeah, so James Remar, by the way.
Who's
So,
the guy that plays the psychologist? Because he's in a lot of other stuff too. He's a really good character actor.
Harrison Ford.
Not that Harris.
Joe Morton.
Is it?
No,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the therapist.
He was in a TV series called
Mhm.
Eureka. Eureka. It's on Sci-Fi.
Eureka.
Eureka.
Eureka. Yeah, Eureka.
Well, he's also in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, isn't that him?
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah. See,
Mhm.
that's
But he's
what
done
I
a lot of
remember
good
him
stuff.
from. Hmm.
Of course you do.
Interesting.
I do want to give credit because everybody talks about, oh, Jaws made me afraid to go in the water. I've never been able to take a bath without thinking about this scene.
I mean, that makes sense. That's probably true facts right there.
Ever since I saw it, I was like, I wonder if I could do that with my foot. Or I was like, bitch, I
Oh.
would just drown.
I would have drowned too. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest. The whole thing in the bathtub, and this is where it gets you, right? Because these are all familiar things. These are things we do every day. Well, I mean, I take baths. I don't know about the men in the room, Lance. But, when you're taking a bath or whatever, like so many people drown. Like who just drowned? Oh my God, Matthew
Whitney
Perry just
Houston.
drowned.
Oh, that
Whitney
was a hot
Houston
tub.
drowned in the
Okay,
bathtub.
first of all, Matthew Perry drowned in his hot tub. Not as bad.
It was a tub with water in it.
A hot
For
tub?
Christ's sake.
Which for rich people, by the way, this thing was like a pool. So
Her bathtub.
no, his bathtub. Her
Okay.
bathtub probably was actually a real bathtub.
Well, no, she had like a claw foot, like, porcelain.
Well, that's the
head,
reason they
whatever.
make bathtubs too short, so you can't actually fully immerse yourself.
That's no fun.
I know. I like to be
I
like,
hate
I know. Because you can never quite get it over to cover
No,
anything. It's like,
Yeah,
what's the
I always
point?
plug it.
Oh, that's a yeah, I do it too
Yeah.
with the washcloth.
I mean, if it's my time, it's my time. At least I'll be relaxed.
Yeah.
I love how two of you are afraid of this, but yet both of you are like, no, 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 I need to be fully submersed. Like,
It's a
try to
scary
save me.
concept, but a scarier concept is taking a bath with half your body, like your tits sticking out of the water. Those are
Yeah,
really
just
Again,
floating along the top. Who knows?
I agree with both of you. I just think it's ironically funny that you both are afraid of this, and yet
you just want
they've
to
tried
talk
to
down to
save
women, is what you're saying. Okay.
you. What?
That's true. I agree.
Oh my
So
god.
back to
Go
the
ahead and
film.
mansplain to us how we can drown a
Oh.
bathtub, Lance.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
thank you,
Actually,
Lance.
I wasn't even mansplaining. I was telling you that they purposely don't make them big enough so you can't get in there.
Thank you for explaining us the history of bathtub making. This is
Did you know the
wonderful.
history of bathtubs? Either one of you?
Yeah, it's a tub and you put
You were
yourself
both
in it
fibbers.
to take a
Just
bath.
fibbers. You
What's
two
the
are the
history of
biggest
bathtub,
fibbers.
Lance?
That, you know what? I don't even care anymore.
No,
You
because you
guys
don't
enjoy
know.
your bathtubs. I do,
Yeah.
but I don't want to talk
He
about it now.
doesn't know.
He's just trying to make
Mhm.
himself
Oh.
look better. Gee.
Oh.
So, with that being said, as the kids always say, I'm like, why did you put this in your essay? With that being said, who the fuck says that? Anyway,
You.
so
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I am only saying that because I have to read it all the fucking time. I think they just don't know what to say. So I have to say it. So she's in it's not even just like the bathtub scene, but I think that some of the most horrific scenes are when she realizes. So the whole film, she realizes there's a ghost in the house. Very subtly, the doors are opening without her touching them. There's pictures falling. We figure out later that the ghost is making the picture fall because they want her to discover the back of the newspaper article. That's why the picture keeps breaking. And also, just like, I also think that the ghost is fucking with her in a way to make her look like she might be crazy, just to stick it to her too. I really don't think that this was a benevolent spirit trying to help her. I really don't. Like, I think she was just and the reason I say that is because every time you see pictures of her, she doesn't look she has resting bitch face. Let's just put it that way. Like, she's up to something. And even her mother, when Michelle Pfeiffer goes to see her mother, later on in the film, the mom was like, "Oh, she was always out.
She
She was
was a
always
bitch.
doing things. But she still got straight A's. She went to Princeton. Like, she's a very smart. And the thing is, she uses her sexuality to get what she wants, and I don't blame her for it because
Same.
I was the same way.
Easiest thing to
Exactly,
do. Yeah.
really is. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Wait.
And
But doesn't that make it harder for her to like legitimately trust the ghost? And you think about it, because she was fucking her man, her husband. You know what I mean?
but
So this ghost is like saying, "Hey, your man did something terrible," but at the same time, yeah, you were fucking my husband when I was alive, and you were alive.
well, that's
Well,
not the point. I think the Go ahead, Mikey.
I was gonna say I don't think the ghost was trying to help her, but what I do think is it may have been one of those like she can't rest unless the truth about what happened to her comes out, which is
Mm,
why she starts haunting her and why she starts pointing her to the direction of where because she never tries to kill her. She even kind of saves her at the end.
yeah.
But
So
I
is my
mean, if
enemy
you
is my friend, or
no,
my enemy of my enemy is my friend type
no,
scenario?
because she never scares her. I mean, she's scary because she's a ghost, but she never actually like haunts her like you know, typically like trying to scare someone. She, you know,
She does
posted.
possess her.
Well, I think that was to
Yeah.
fuck with Harrison Ford. And also to
Yeah,
give
Yeah.
us that scene in Scary Movie 2.
true.
The
But
eyes turning green is awesome, though. You have to admit, right? Like
that
when you realize that's a transformation moment because the eyes turn green, and that's even when he sees it, kind of like, oh shit, she might be on something about the fucking ghost.
No, you know how you can tell she's possessed? Because her legs are always wide open. And there's
yeah.
something in between them. Because I was like, there's a lot of considering. Well, first of all, let's point out 8 hates PG-13 horror movies, yet she gives us a PG-13 horror movie. And also, like,
A lot.
there's just a
Is it
lot.
PG-13?
Yeah, there's a lot of like subtle sexual imagery. And Michelle Pfeiffer's legs being spread open are the three-fourths in the movie are the main star of the film. There's a cello in between them. There's a
Mhm.
candle in between them at one part. There's nothing in between them at one part. And it's just like there's a sign that's just pointing to it. It says Harrison Ford, enter me.
Mm.
His facial expression when that moment happened when Chili Kelly goes, "Oh, that's what we're doing right
Oh
now."
yeah, which is like
Yeah.
Professor whatever.
Yeah,
I
like
didn't
why would
see
he not
him
get that?
stop.
Yeah, well, he's like, "Are we role playing? Is this what's happening? Yes, maybe. Okay, I'm in."
Well,
Yeah.
no, he says to her, I guess you're not mad at me anymore because what did he do? He just, like, right before that, he had done something to make her feel stupid.
Well, he yelled at her.
Yeah.
Well,
And
did he call her
even,
out at the table and say she believes in ghosts, even though that
yeah,
wasn't even part of the conversation? It's like,
Yeah.
damn, bitch.
that is just so, I remember, and I don't even want to say this story, but like, I don't think
But
people
here we
realize
go.
like
I know.
how when you're with your partner and they're supposed to be your friend and on your side and they do something like to throw you under the bus like that.
I mean, it's
I'll
fucked up.
I'll never forget Dan did that shit to me in front of this whole family.
Mm.
I remember that, and I still bitch at him to this day, so I don't care if he hears this. But I was at his family's house, and the months prior, I was at a wedding, and I rode back with one of his cousin's boyfriends at the time. They're married now, and they have two kids, but at the time, they were just boyfriend and girlfriend. And he was driving me back to the hotel because I wasn't in the wedding party, and neither was he. And he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to live in Orlando, but I don't think I could do it. There's too many gay people or too many
Oh,
gays." When he said that to me, I just sat because this was right after Pulse, like literally a year after Pulse. And this motherfucker is saying this shit to me. And I'm just like, so I told Dad, I'm like, I don't like him. Like, why would you say that to me? Like, that's not funny. I go, first of all men in my life are gay. Sorry, Lance. But like, not Lance, obviously.
Well,
But
I'm working on it.
go
But go
on.
ahead.
But
Yeah.
every man, like, first of all of my like male, like literally, there's gays everywhere around me, and he's over here trying to say this to me, and I'm thinking to myself, are you fucking serious? And he's like a little twerpy looking guy too. So I was annoyed by that. So I tell Dan this. A year later, we're at a party, and Dan yells across the house full of people saying, "Oh, and you remember so and so? Remember you said you don't like him because he hates the gays?"
I mean, he's just spitting facts. But I feel like that's more of a slight to that guy than you.
Yeah.
When he did that to her at the dinner table, I was mortified. I was mortified because I'm thinking to myself, these are things that you and I are talking about together, and then you're just kind of making fun of me in front of people who are respectable. Like that guy is a doctor. Like that was the doctor. I don't know if you guys noticed later, but when he electrocutes himself in the shower, his friend came to like check on him. He was the doctor.
Yeah.
So like these are like respectable people and they're having a good time. And that by the way, that dinner scene is one of my favorites because isn't that always how it goes? Like if you're having dinner with another couple, Mikey, sorry, but the women are usually talking across the table and they're ignoring the men and the men are talking over, they're talking to each other, but you're not engaged into an entire conversation. You're having your little side conversations together, which I found great.
I just sit there with a bad attitude until we can leave. I don't talk to
Oh,
anybody.
that sounds about right.
And then I get in
Yeah.
trouble on the way home. You could look more friendly.
No.
Well, you could make me not go to places I don't want to go.
Well, and that's the thing. That's how I am because like if
She
I'm
had a
not
weird
happy,
end.
you're gonna know it. Like,
I love both of you. Are like this. Oh, I'm sorry. You do know this is your fault, right?
Exactly. It's like,
how dare you? Yeah.
like when you asked me if I'll go with you, I didn't say with a good attitude. I said, yeah, I'll be there.
I'm just here to look pretty. That's it. I'm not here to do anything
I'll
Oh,
else.
eat, I'll drink, and then I will text you guys throughout the rest of the night.
But anyways, I know, right? So back to the movie. I just think that I don't know, there's a good balance of his treatment towards her because he clearly gaslights her. And we were talking about this before. Was this on the recording or not? Did we say that? Gaslighting was not a term back in 2000.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a thing. And the early 2000s, like everybody likes to say that the 80s were like all over the place. But I really feel like the early 2000s, like you could pretty much get away with anything. Like you, first of all, the clothes, the denim,
Ugh, gross. Justin and Brittany.
Whoa.
the
Why
Jinkos
gotta
are
go
out of
after Jankos
control.
like that?
This Jinkos are out, and Lance likes to talk about them, but he can't even say them correctly.
Jankos. It's Jankos. I know how
Jinkos.
they.
It's not
Jinkos or
Jinkos.
Jankos?
It's
Jankos.
Jinkos.
Well, as one of the people here that has actually worn them, I think I can call them whatever I
How
want.
dare you? I had Jinkos also. It's the closest thing I
Did
get to
you?
bell bottom jeans.
Well, I had bell bottom. I
But
had the boots with the fur.
That's
yeah,
wow. Are we singing a song right now?
Anyways, the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s were a very what is it? Wild, wild west of our days. And like if you like and literally with our treatment towards each other, because if you think back on it at the time, we had shows like Jackass. We had shows like Next. Remember Next?
remember, I live next.
Okay. We had
Mm.
shows like Next oh, heaven forbid we ever have a show like that now, right? And so, and if you don't know what Next was, it was basically like a guy would meet a bunch of girls, and every time a girl pissed him off, he'd say next, and they'd bring a new one out until he found the one he liked.
I mean, sounds perfect.
I actually know a girl was on that show, actually. She comes in the bar all the time. Well, no, it's because she
I
comes in the
bet she
bar.
does.
Oh my
I
god.
know. Anyway.
Well, I just want to give a special shout out because this time frame of movies are movies that I think are really cool because, like I said earlier, they're movies, horror light movies that are made for the general audience. Like this one, In Dreams, Stir of Echoes. There's a lot of
Mr. Beckles is
those.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those movies that it's like you don't have to be a horror fan to like it, and they're creepy, but they're not too scary to where like the people are like, I don't like scary movies, won't go see them. But also, I couldn't help well, upon my rewatch yesterday, I was like, I feel like this is the basis of The Night House, but The Night House is more intense.
Yes, I was thinking that too. And I think I even mentioned that on our Night House episode. I'll have to revisit it because it's been
Probably.
so long. What, like a
Well, and
year?
also like I this is the second time I've seen this movie. So if we did mention in The Night House, I wouldn't have really had much to pull back from, but after watching it yesterday, I was like, "Oh, look, The Night House."
And if there's a lot of grief in this movie, and whereas I think that the Night House, the spirit is definitely more malevolent than the spirit that we have
Well,
here.
it's a demon, or it's
Is it a demon? Yeah,
open
it's
to
death.
interpretation. I was like,
It,
I think it's death, but
we talked a lot. There's a lot of different. The Night House has a lot more layers to peel back, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to revisit that episode, please do. I think it was last, no, 2 years ago we did that one.
was it? It was really good.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Such a good
Um,
movie.
Imagine marrying somebody. Her husband dies. She has a young daughter, like a little girl. She marries Harrison Ford, who is beautiful, by the way. Gives up her entire career for him, gives up everything for him so that he can be
Which he
successful.
didn't ask her for, by the way.
That's what he says. So
Yes.
there's a constant, which really hit home for me. There's a constant uh back and forth between the two of them, like whose fault is it, right? I think it's both their fault, but at the end of the day, who's the vicious one here, right?
The murderer.
So, well, yeah, but he was a murderer before that. But imagine he raised her daughter. Her
Yeah.
daughter has the same last name as he does. So she marries him. She gives her daughter his last name. She lives her basically the rest of her life, like this time until her daughter goes to college with this man who turns out to be a fucking psycho. Like, how fucking scary is that? You're with this person for almost 20 years.
Do you think it's weird that like the ghost? I mean, it seems like the ghost literally waits till the daughter leaves. Like they're like, you know what I'm saying? Like it seems like there's like, I guess that's why you almost don't think it's a malicious ghost, because it's like, why would you wait? Like I mean, especially if it happened a year ago. Like, why would it take that long for you to, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, it makes
That's
sense because
true.
you don't want to run the risk of the daughter getting caught in the crosshairs.
Right. But you know, because the daughter is the most innocent technically out of the whole
Yeah.
thing. I mean, if you really wanted to make a really cool horror movie, you would have the daughter be the one that was the one that gets possessed and have it be really weird,
No, no.
especially because he's a stepdaughter.
Well, I also, oh, that'd be hot.
Oh my God, are we
See?
making, yes, I would say this
Oh,
is not a Brazzers
oh
episode.
my
Thank you very
goodness.
much, Lance.
No,
According to everybody else.
that's our
That's
movie,
funny.
not this movie.
Oh, yes.
But I was thinking in the beginning, I was like, yeah, if this was made this year, they'd probably do the point of view of the pretty young daughter. But I'm glad that we get a point of view of a woman, which I started telling
Hmm.
Olivia. She thinks it's hilarious. When I drive her to school every morning, we listen to like some pump up jam. Are you gonna have a good day today? She's like, yeah. And I was like, what's some like motivational stuff I could tell her before she goes to go? You ready to go out there and be a woman? And she just like thinks it's the funniest thing. She's like,
Nice.
I don't know what it means, but it sounds empowering.
And that's the thing. It's like I think Olivia has
She's the most innocent ideal of everything, though, if you think about it, because it's like she's not bewildered by these things. You know what I mean? Like we're beaten down by it all for all
yeah,
purposes.
because she's raised by you, right? So she's
Yeah.
not sitting around with the ideals of that women are constantly subjecting each other to because of the fact that we're raised this way, right? She is a step up. she
The
she has
advantage.
she has definitely an advantage of being raised by you because she's not going to have the disadvantage of having that lurking sense of misogyny over our heads that women are just ingrained with since we're born. Like we have to get married and we have to have children and we have to do this. And Claire gives up, and just like in the movie, Claire gives up her life for Norman because she's already lost her husband and she doesn't think that she's going to have this again. Because most of us believe that it's like that we have to have a man take care of us and we have to have a man there. Like, women don't, like most of us don't grow up thinking, and even now, and it's the same now because most of my kids are thinking, well, I got to get married. I got to do this. I'm like, no, you
But
don't. Like, this is
don't you think that in
not.
most relationships, though? I mean, outside of taking sex involved into it, I mean, it's almost the same thing for any human being connection. You know what I mean? Sometimes you feel like if you don't have that connection,
I
like,
don't
what I mean, you
know.
can't be as strong as you possibly can be. You know what I mean? I like the American society ideal or human
The
ideal.
nuclear family.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you're stronger. I mean, I love my family. I mean, I'm sure we're all in that same scenario where it's like, because even in our ethnic background, you know what I mean. It's Spanish people are always like, hey, stronger together, not separate. But I mean, and sometimes in that same idea, it kind of hinders us in other ways, like a relationship, because then you think, oh, what am I willing to give up or quote unquote compromise? But sometimes that compromise becomes very gray on what you should be compromising and what you should not be compromising on, in general.
Yeah.
Well, in general, most men are not put into a pigeonhole like women are. Hence why you're not married, sir.
That's not, I mean, that's not true. I mean, as a
Mm.
Hispanic, I still get shit for fucking not having kids and grandkids, you know what I mean, by my mom. My brother already has 2 kids, you know what I mean? It's not that that's not like unrealistic to the male population of any Spanish family. I don't care who you are. Like, I mean, that's a real thing.
Mikey,
What?
what were we gonna say?
I am not any traditional whatsoever. I don't think you should compromise. There's things you can compromise on, like I may not be the cleanest person. Sure, I will make sure that on Tuesdays I do this or that. This is an example. I'm very clean. But like
I was like,
if
why are you saying that to yourself?
no, but like if there's things like if people are asking you to compromise with who you are, that's not a compromise.
And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that people ask that. I think it's just kind of implied.
Um, I mean, a compromise has to be willing, and you have to volunteer to compromise. If you don't want to, if
Hmm.
someone came up to you and was like, "Hey, I really dig you, but like this whole movie stuff you have going on, it's not going to work for me." I'm like, cool, then this isn't going to work. But if someone came out
Yeah.
to me and was like, "Hey, you should probably shower more," I'd be like, "I'll try." Um, you know,
Possibly.
there's a
Well,
difference.
there is a
Yeah.
difference, but I think that it a lot of these compromises are very subtle in the fact that, and most women are the ones who have to make the sacrifices because we are expected to do all of the housework, right? We're expected to do all of the little duties, the little women duties of the house. We have to not only take care of the house, make dinner, do this, do that. We have to take care of the
So you're
kids. We
calling me
have
a
to
woman.
raise the kids. And
That's
so,
all that I
but
do.
but see, this is where like, people are so worried about the nuclear family, but there's always someone who has to do it, right? Whether
Yeah.
you're gay or straight, there's always someone who does more than the other. That's just what it is. It's like there's never like a partnership to where, and maybe you can tell me I'm wrong, Mikey, but I feel like for the most part, like I feel like if I were to get married and have kids, like I'd end up being like a single married mother, right? A single whatever. No, but most women have to sacrifice things because it is ingrained in society. These are the things that we need to do. So she probably did that and gave up what she held dear because Norman's career was more important, quote
Yeah.
unquote, was more important. She's just a musician. He's a fucking scientist. So whose career takes precedence? It's
Yeah.
really like in any relationship, whoever makes more money, their career takes precedence. And I'm not saying that's right or that it means more. I'm just saying that that's how it is.
Yeah. Well,
So,
luckily tides are changing because I actually have a friend who's a woman and she's married to a man. And they've discussed when they have kids, she's going to keep working and he's going to stay at home. And it doesn't have anything to do with how much they make because they pretty much both make the same. This is kind of like why I couldn't be a stay-at-home dad is the bigger component is who has the mental capacity to stay with the child 24/7. When Olivia was born, so if you don't know, listeners, I had Olivia since day one from the hospital. All the adoption papers were set in stone before she was even born, so that on day one, when she was born, after 48-hour waiting period, we could take her home. So went through everything except the birth. And so I had the job that was going to give me a 4 month paternity leave. So I stayed with her for 4 months. And that was very difficult. Um, I do handle most of the like, picking her up from school when they're home because my partner works late, things like that. And that's fine. Love it. Wouldn't change it for the world. But could I stop being around adults and do that full time? No, especially when she was a baby.
Well,
I
it's
just,
crazy. Yeah, that'd be hard as fuck. I mean, I couldn't even
yeah,
imagine that.
that's not ingrained in me. And it's not because I'm a man, it's not because of anything other than just personality types.
Yeah.
Whereas my partner, that's his dream, but he didn't have a job that would have allowed him to do that.
You're
So
like, motherfucker.
yeah, so sometimes in the relationship it's good to have this discussion so that if you are the woman and you're maybe not that kind of person, not saying you don't love your kid, not saying you're not going to take care of your kid, but if you're not that kind of person, then maybe talk to your husband or wife and be like, hey, you have a really nurturing personality. I think you would do great at this stay-at-home parent thing. So,
yeah. No, I agree. And I think that but a lot of people don't have these conversations, and a lot of times it's just expected.
yeah,
And
it's Women's
so
Month. Do what you want, ladies.
it's Women's
Yeah.
Month, and so our malevolent, our spirit, so to speak, basically possesses and just puts poor Claire through the ringer the entire film to
Forgets how
get
to
to
close her legs.
doesn't close her
Mm.
legs, possesses her, fucks Norman. Norman doesn't believe her until I think that moment he finally realizes that there is something wrong.
Her eyes turn green.
And when her eyes turn green, her face does subtly change. It's very quick, but her face does change and he sees it. And so part of him thinks he might be delusional because remember he calls his friend. I think now when he's talking to the friend, he's trying to say she or someone I know, but I think he might be talking about himself too. Because he might be thinking, oh my God, am I making this up in my head? I killed this woman and now here I am having these delusions. And so, how fitting was that ending? First of all, the bathtub scene. How fucking scary it is when she finally gets out of the tub.
Yeah.
And she's going through those rooms. And if we're going to talk about that, they actually constructed, if you've seen the movie, so that's why I keep stressing that everyone listening to this episode needs to watch this movie. But they basically had 5 different versions of the bathroom and they constructed all these various sets. So they could have different parts of the same scene could be filmed at different times. So like every time she's like sticking out her head out, and I love the fact that she pulls that piece of the mirror down and she has to look to see where he is. And then she thinks he's at the door. And then when she comes around the corner, it's not him at the door, it's the curtain. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, what is that movie? And then he's on the floor. She's got, oh my God, she's going backwards down the stairs. Probably the scariest part, I think. Just waiting. When is he going to pop up? Besides the bathtub, and she almost dies. But when is he going to pop back up again? And like, ah, So then you have the whole ending scene, which I absolutely adore. So, and by the way, great camera, cinematography, like all of these different shots they did with her in the camera, because it felt like one different swoop where she gets in the car and it swoops under her. And then you look back at the house and then you see the rocking chair moving and she's like ignoring it because she's
Yeah.
all over the place. And you can only have this movie in this time frame.
The
Because she had
CGI
just
actually from that time is actually really decent. I mean, it's not horrible. You know what I mean? I'm saying compared to some other things we've seen in this time frame, like the
well,
CGI for this is actually
they
pretty
had
decent.
$100 million budget and made almost 300 million in profit.
Oh wow.
And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and the fact that it came out in 2000, its real only competition was They Nest, and then American Psycho, Blair Witch 2, Final
Hey, would you
Destination,
say
Ginger
it's
Snaps.
a good year?
No, I would not say that this was a good
Oh
year.
wow.
Although I do
First
like
time
a
on
lot of
air.
these movies.
Wow, stop.
I love Ginger Snaps. We've done Ginger Snaps on one of our horror months. I do love Ginger Snaps. I love Hollow Man.
Are you sure it's not a good year?
Cherry Falls is fine. Citizen Taxi's in this year. Anyways, so great movie. I think I definitely recommend it for Women's Month. Please don't listen to my feminist rant before you watch this movie. I'm so sorry.
The one about hairy underarms?
No, that was necromantic.
I didn't know which rant you were talking about.
Just talking about
Just wanted to
French
clarify.
people.
Yeah, and I took out
Okay.
like half of it too. But
I know.
But yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Anyways, so if you want to support us monetarily, you can go to patreon.com/slasherspod or slasherspod.redbubble.com to get some really sweet feminist merchandise for Women's Month because we have plenty of that in there. And stay tuned for any new designs to come shortly.
Boop, boop.
If you want to follow Mikey and support Noelia, you can follow Mikey at Horror and a Half Shell. You can follow Lance at Zombie versus Hate. You can follow me at Pathologically ADE or the Slashers Pod or Mutant Goons from Beyond pages on both Instagram and Facebook, as well as the fucking TikTok. I always forget to mention TikTok. We have a TikTok. We post on it, but I'm horrible. I'm not 12
The
years old. I don't know
fucking
what I'm doing.
TikTok.
The
Damn.
fucking TikTok. So there's that. All right. So there's that. So with that, I think that we're starting Women's Hysteria Month off to a great start, Mikey. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And goodbye, my babies, and goodbye.
Bye.
Duh.